What is up, everyone, and welcome back to the Triple H podcast Happy Hour Hoops presented by Trainwreck Sports. Steve, Jake, and myself here to talk the NBA Finals. We finally made it, fellas. We're here. The finals, they start tomorrow. Everything NBA, like always, but this is the finals week. It's here. It's sad. It means less basketball, but it also means we get to see who the champion of the 2024-2025 season is. And with that, how we doing, fellas? We excited for the finals or what?
I think it's going to be fun, man. I think you guys can attest to this as well. These have been probably two of our favorite teams to watch this postseason. The Pacers kind of won me over in the playoffs. I always liked the Pacers. I always, kind of liked that team, that style of basketball, and they really kind of perfected it in the Eastern Conference playoffs. And then you have the Thunder, who, talk about almost having your typical perfect season, right? 68 win regular season, the MVP on their roster. They have a chance to do something only a couple teams have really done in NBA history, is eclipse a certain win mark that I think only the Chicago Bulls and the Golden State Warriors have gotten to with their championship. So I'm really, really excited to see how this plays out. I think both teams play similar styles, and both teams are kind of built a little similarly. I think the Thunder are, a little bit better, a little more like fine-tuned than the Pacers. But I know some people are going to complain about all the small market, the ratings, no one's going to watch. I think as a basketball fan, I think this is going to be some really, really fun basketball to watch and almost kind of refreshing basketball as opposed to, what we've seen in some previous finals. These are two teams that play true, deep rosters, team basketball, and they want to run. So I can't wait.
Yeah, Steve, that very well said. This is such an exciting finals just from a basketball standpoint. Like if you're just sitting down and want to know what the product is going to look like on your television, is it worth investing 3 hours of your life? It's going to be worth it. Like this is going to be a really interesting matchup. And no matter what with this Pacers team, even if you think they don't have a shot in this, at what they do, they will fight in every single one of these games. Every single one of these games is going to be close at some point late in the game. I have no doubt about that. So I'm really excited about that. And ratings, don't even get me started on ratings, Steve. We don't need to. If you're talking about ratings, you don't care about sports. Like, I'm sorry. I'm a wrestling fan, and as a wrestling fan, you have to see posts a day after a show comes out, posting the demographic and the ratings, and then fans earnestly arguing whether that means a company's doing well or not. It's like, guys, like just watch it. Who cares? What does it matter to you if you enjoy it? I don't watch a show and think, wow, I hope 14 million people are watching this with me or something like that. Whatever. Yeah. Like it doesn't matter. Who cares? Like I'm having fun with this finals, and this final specifically is really interesting. I think it's just weird to people because we're still in this new era of like parity in the NBA. Like we've literally never seen anything like this. And specifically with these two markets, these two teams in this moment meeting each other is like the ultimate Adam Silver parody dream, bro. Like this is really his manifest dream and that's why he's going on talk show. How weird was it, first of all, too, to see him on, of all shows, like, what was that show called on FS1 today? I've never even heard of that show today. I was like, why is Adam, what is he doing? But he needed to go get some PR out there, because he's hearing all the complaints about this small market. And I thought it was a smart move to him bringing up Steelers, Packers, like two small markets in the NFL. No one would ever mention it. Like, let's just enjoy the pageantry for the NBA Finals for what it is. And it's going to be great basketball.
I kind of disagreed with the comparison, though.
Well, those are the two. I disagree also because those are two of literally the most storied franchises in the NFL. Like,
exactly. That's where I thought he missed the mark. Like his process was good, but the end result, I was like, well, kind of telling on yourself for not knowing football a little bit. But I get
what would be the NBA comparison? I guess it would have been like Milwaukee a couple years ago and
Buffalo.
So Milwaukee and LA.
Buffalo and the Thunder are kind of similar.
Well, there's no Buffalo doesn't exist. What are we talking about?
No, but I'm saying the NFL comparison instead of Packers Steelers. I'm saying the NFL comparison would be like a Buffalo Bills for Oklahoma City Thunder, right? And then you find a team for, but
I
it's
was saying, what would be the small market, like the Packers? Is there even a Packers Steelers comparison to make of like small market dominant
you're
teams?
saying like locally?
Yeah, like who, like, because like it's like Lakers, Celtics, like those are huge market teams.
Right.
Like you're talking about the Bulls, big, obviously a huge market. Like Miami, San Antonio. So San Antonio is kind of like
I was thinking
could be your
Spurs, smaller market, but a
Steelers
lot of
ish
history.
San
team.
Antonio works for the Steelers.
So it'd be a Spurs and a Who finals.
I mean, you could do Bucks, right? Because
Yeah, so like Spurs
Yeah.
Bucks finals would be like the
Packers
equivalent, I feel
parallel
like, to
too?
Packers.
Sure.
That's what I was looking for. I was looking for something like that.
Because like history still has like the championships, but not like the biggest market.
Yeah,
Historic
But
players have played there.
yeah, that's kind of
Sure.
what I was looking for. But I do like the Bills and Thunder make a lot of sense from that perspective.
Yeah.
Indiana feels like I don't even know where Indiana's like they're
Minnesota,
like
maybe?
the Carolina
Yeah, I don't hate
Panthers or
that.
something.
Minnesota's not a bad one.
Minnesota, yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
I would rather him said like a Vikings Bills than Packers
that makes-
Steelers. Steelers just doesn't make
Silver.
sense. Like I get they're calling it a small market, but
The
Steelers makes no
was a
sense.
crazy poll.
It's a wild one. It's like one of the most. It's probably the second most historic franchise in the NFL.
Yeah.
Steelers, probably right.
I'd say so.
Yeah, so
man.
Yeah.
But to keep it on that Adam Silver thing, he also did deliver the news that next year's All-Star game will be USA versus World. So I know we were all curious about that after the hockey thing.
The issue, the world won't try. Look at the track record of the world players in the All-Star game. They don't care. I don't think you're going to get them to care. That might be the biggest issue. All the tryhards are on Team USA.
Well, you don't think year 10 Jokic will just
Oh
all of a sudden
Giannis will foul once, then come out for the game. Luka will shoot 6 from half court. Jokic he might be just sitting on the bench while he's on the court.
SGA might just be holding his MVP trophy during the game. Just running around with it, playing with
SGA he's not driving in the All-Star game. Like I like the idea, right? The concept behind USA World if they care. But the past 3-4 All-Star games, guys, the guys, the world, the international players they check out.
Well, yeah. Also, the format last year was just embarrassingly bad.
Well, it was terrible.
The whole thing. So
it was terrible.
That's why at least like this little nugget. It's funny that we're talking about this in June, the week of the NBA Finals, but I thought it was interesting.
Have they ever tried East versus West, Dunny? Maybe try that.
Yeah, right.
Wow, that would be crazy. That'd be wild if they did something like that.
Oh man, I wish. Although next year the East might be completely fucked, especially if
it's a good time to change it. Yeah,
especially if there's imagine if that's when they do it. Giannis goes to the West or something, and no Tatum.
It's tough.
Who are we rolling out there for the East? But anyway, yeah, we'll do news and notes. This is part of the news and notes, and then we'll go into finals preview, and then I guess we'll end with the future of the Knicks. And obviously, we're going to talk about Tibbs here, but we can dive a little bit more into the Knicks. So first bullet point, guys: Knicks fired Tom Thibodeau. It's weird because the last couple years I was like, oh, this seems like it's coming. And then they're running the playoffs. I was like, maybe he's probably safe. And then a few days after they're eliminated, we get the Shams notification that Thibodeau has been fired. All different kind of, rumors out there. Was it the conversation in the middle of the season that he had to have with Mikal Bridges? Was it that Brunson's dad's on the sideline and those two guys don't get along? Has he just run his course as the guy who plays everyone a million minutes and doesn't really play his bench? Were you guys surprised by this, or did you kind of have a feeling this might happen?
Surprised by the timing for sure. I think this felt like when it happened that their decision was made up long before this, right? And this was if you don't win the NBA Finals, almost you're gone. Because who knows? Even if the Knicks made the Finals, who knows what would have happened? Let's say they lose the Finals, he could have been fired after that. It's just the timing of it felt like their mind was kind of made up, and this was Tibbs' final year, and obviously, winning a championship probably would put a halt to that, would be my guess. But who knows nowadays with how teams decide to fire their coaches. But for me, it's another thing, right? With the timing, the Knicks just had one of their best playoff runs in 25 years. It's like, all right. So what's the plan now? Well, what's the plan now? Who are you going to go after? What are you looking to improve on? NBA, media had a field day with this firing of the memes of all the bench players now like rejoicing that they're actually going to play minutes because Tibbs is gone, and then like you said, Dunny, all the rumors circulating of why it happened. But for me, the biggest issue is the timing of it. I don't think Tibbs is a bad coach. I think he's a coach that works with specific players and doesn't work with other players. Like, you really have to kind of buy into his system, his culture, whatever you want to call it. But for me, it's the timing. Once again, the timing makes me think the Knicks either have the guy they want and they're going to go get him, or that they were firing Tibbs regardless of what happened in these Eastern Conference playoffs. And I just don't like that. That doesn't really sit right for me. I don't really know what the replacement would be. I know there's a lot of names floating out there, but I don't know, man. I'm so tired of these teams that fall short in the playoffs when it's like, okay, like going into the season, this was probably where if you ended up, right? If I would have said going into the season, right, Knicks are going to go to the Eastern Conference Finals and lose, you guys would have been like, okay, like that's probably just slightly above expectations for the team we had coming in, right? I think that's a fair statement to make. So it's like, what was the Knicks' expectations coming in? I know they claimed to be the Celtics, killers coming into the season. Well, guess what? Sorry, Dunny, don't want to bring it up, but you did what you wanted to do. You built a team to beat the Celtics. You beat the Celtics. You ran into an Indiana team that A, was red hot, and B, had some incredible, comebacks and late game moments. And if a couple shots fall differently, we might be talking about the Knicks in the NBA Finals. But that's kind of everything goes. It's a game of inches, and I don't know, man. I personally disagree with the firing because I don't know. I don't think that it was a fair timing of it. I think the Knicks kind of overachieved a little bit of expectations this year, and I'm curious to see where they go from here.
Yeah, it's strange, man. Like I think just because I kind of had him on my own personal hot seat the last like 2-3 years, I wasn't surprised by it. But then like as time passes, I am surprised just because everything you laid out, Steve. Like I don't think you can call this next season a failure, especially because of how things shook out in the regular season and then ended up in the playoffs. Like, this is a team that couldn't beat fucking anybody. And then they took down the defending champs, and then they ran into the buzzsaw that is the Indiana Pacers, like everyone else. And yeah, sure, they weren't equipped to take out the Pacers. Is that Tibbs' fault? I don't know, but it is strange. Like, just more and more we see coaches kind of, I don't want to say, it's tough to say this team gave up on Tibbs because Tibbs has been around so long, and it's like we kind of know who he is, and maybe they were just getting sick of him. But teams are just giving up on coaches way too easily nowadays. And I don't know if that's just because of how much demand and power the players have and how much money they make, so the teams would just rather side with them. I'm sure that's part of it, but kind of a strange one. I can't help but think that the McHale thing that happened during the season and Brunson's dad being on the coaching staff like has to play into this a little bit. Like I couldn't imagine coaching a professional team and the best player on my team's dad is my assistant. Like that,
Right.
regardless if Brunson's father is an angel on the sidelines, like that would just there would still just be
Weird
awkwardness and
dynamic.
tension
Yeah.
there. So I don't know if they're trying to get rid of that. And then, the more I think about it, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if this is fair to Tibbs, but like we always say, Tibbs overplays his guys, right? Like that's a narrative. It's there's really no other way to put it. Like he plays his guys 40 plus minutes, and that's what he wants to do. But all year long, we were talking about how thin the Knicks bench was, and early in the playoffs, they couldn't get anything from their bench. I think part of that is because they don't really get much run in the regular season. And
Yeah.
yeah, I know talent, like they don't have much talent on their bench anyway. But if you have young guys or, guys who don't get a lot of run, but you need help, it's not good for you to not play the guys and get them exposure during the regular season. And then you run into this thing in the playoffs where you need a guy or two to come off the bench and help you. It was almost like he realized it too late because he just started tinkering with stuff like crazy during the Pacers series. And it's like, well, these guys had no exposure this season. They had no, reps, and they weren't ready for the moment. So I don't know. The whole Tibbs thing is weird. Do I think they find a better coach to coach this team? Maybe, but it's hard. It's hard to find a good coach, and I think you had one. And I also think there's more changes to come with the Knicks, but we can talk about
think
that a little later on.
I think there's probably a lot to the two things you mentioned, from the player perspective as much as anything. Mikhail complaining about the minutes and then the Brunson dynamic. This move doesn't happen if Brunson's not okay with it. That's for sure. Like I'm sure I'm positive about that. And Brunson was a defender of Tibbs. Like it's not like Brunson was out there flaming Tibbs. He loved him. So, but sometimes it's been a long time, and like you said, Steve, and it is annoying. That's what this league is at this point. I think everybody's seen the post now at this point about the longest tenured coaches and everything else. Like we've seen that to death. There aren't many long tenured coaches. It's not, and that's the NBA, that's the NHL. That's pretty much across all sports. You have a shorter shorter shelf life than ever if you're a coach. And for the Knicks, though, I mean, it's an admission of I don't know what I think it is, honestly, because the way the East looks next year, like the Knicks could be positioned to be the favorite in the East, depending on what they do this summer, depending on what moves that they make. And the Knicks are clearly involved in every move we're talking about. The two biggest names on the market, Giannis and Kevin Durant, the Knicks are squarely in the middle of rumors of both of those. I feel like the Knicks are probably making a move this summer. They're probably trading Karl-Anthony Towns. Who would have thought that wasn't going to work out for them? And there's going to look different, but it's a moment where they're recognizing, like, shit, look at this East next year. Like, if we can figure out this Indiana thing, it might be sweet. I don't know if that's a good thought. I think this could kind of be what the Knicks ceiling of this team, and this could be their crowning moment. That's kind of where I'm at. This is a team who we saw in the regular season when they faced the elite competition what happened. And yeah, they got by Boston in that series, but the Tatum injury is a factor in it, even if they would have won that game one way or the other. But we can't speak to that anymore. So I don't know. I don't know what I think about the Knicks, because I think that they don't really know what they think about themselves yet. I think they're in this moment still kind of deciding what they want to be, because there's a lot of different avenues they can go with their team. And even making a trade, even the difference between trading for a Durant and trading for a Giannis, like those are two, like in a vacuum, two superstar trades, adding a guy like that, but they're so different. They're different levels of superstar trades at this point, right? So like, it's crazy. The Knicks are the most interesting team going into this offseason, I think, 100%. And the Tibbs thing just comes down to, if it's just a chemistry thing as much as anything else, then you just got to make this move now, because now is the moment in the East if you're going.
Do you think New York's going to get one of those two you named, Giannis or KD?
I think they end up with KD.
Really?
I do. KD's wanted to go there for how long, guys? I mean, I mean, I feel like this is the perfect, and Cat's the perfect trade for it. Cat wants to play with Booker. Like, they've always wanted to play together. They've always been friends. Like, this is like it is the perfect, let me trade my problem for your problem trade. I'm not saying it solves anything, but it's like maybe just change the scenery for both these guys, and for Cat just putting him with his buddy is a good thing.
Do you think we'll see Bridges on the next year?
Bridges? I think so.
I think
so.
Okay.
Yeah. I think Tibbs leaving means Bridges is staying.
Gotcha.
Probably getting.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think ownership would have to take a long, hard look at themselves in the mirror if they ended up trading Bridges after giving up 5 firsts for him a year ago.
Not wrong.
Also, this got sent to me since I last stopped talking. Multiple Knicks players unhappy with Rick Brunson's presence on the bench from Sam Amico, who's a NBA senior writer for HoopsWire.
Of course.
So,
I mean,
that'd be so weird if my teammate's dad was on the bench.
This goes back to Little League. Yeah. This goes back to when we were playing in like, middle school, like elementary, high school. You don't want the coach's son as the coach's son, the assistant coach, right? You want that player's dad.
Yeah, no, it's very strange, especially it being the best,
especially
best
the star.
Player.
Yeah.
Apparently, the exact issue has not been determined, though sources suggested that Rick has had too big a say in things. So,
right,
like exactly what you'd expect from the star player's dad being on the
bench. Yeah, exactly.
I kinda, that was on my radar as soon as I saw the Tibbs news. No surprise that the players were bothered by it. I'm sure Tibbs was annoyed at some times. Like you saw about Brunson, and then you look over and you just see like his dad and Brunson having a private conversation. Like that would bother me as a head coach.
It's interesting that like the Knicks, with the Nova Knicks and Rick Brunson on the side and everything else, like the Knicks like path to this is like we're gonna just be an AAU team. Like that's
right,
pretty much
AAU team.
Yeah,
we're gonna put all our friends
Which one
together.
Of the moms is
we're gonna put dad on the bench. Yeah, who's bringing the apple slices? Put them in the locker room. Hey, Tibbs. Maybe Tibbs hated it, and maybe
they play like an AAU team, no bench.
Yeah,
exactly. They're playing 5-6 guys. They're playing like an AAU team too. No bench. You're gonna play 48 minutes. You're playing 45 of them.
We need to come up with an AAU crazy name for the Knicks, like New York. I don't know, those crazy ass AAU teams. I can't think of it right now, but I will try to something. There's got to be something we can do, but that's what they're running out there now. And I mean, hey, you got to the conference finals, so something was working, but.
Yeah,
not working well enough.
We could do a little more on the Knicks at the end of the show if we want to. We just talked about this guy's team, Devin Booker, the Phoenix Suns, have apparently found their next coach, Jordan Ott, who is a assistant coach for your Cavs, Jake.
Yep.
This past year. So it's funny because a couple years ago, this kind of started happening to the Celtics when they had 2 big regular seasons back to back. Their bench just started to get picked off left and right, like just assistants going out the door to smaller market teams, which is great. These guys getting an opportunity. All the things I've read about Jordan have been great. Devin Booker apparently was heavily involved in the search. And I think, we just talked about the Knicks, who have a bunch of changes on the way. I think obviously the Suns have a lot of changes on the way this summer, starting with the head coach, and now we kind of wait because I think you're right, Jake. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Cat for Durant swap. But also today there was a lot of buzz of KD, and his camp wants him to end up in San Antonio. So KD going to, play alongside Wemby would be great too. Where are you guys at with the Suns and Durant? I know, Jake, you just said Knicks. Steve, are you just kind of, I got to see where this goes because pretty much every team has been rumored at this point.
Can I give one note on this coach hiring? Just one thing. Matt Ishbia, the owner of the Suns, and Dan Gilbert, owner of the Cavs, are in a ongoing forever blood feud together.
Really?
They are both the 2 mortgage guys in the country. Rocket Mortgage and then whatever Ishbia, I don't remember what Ishbia's mortgage company is called.
Mm-hmm.
But so they have been competing with each other forever and legit hate each other, and I think that has absolutely something to do with Phoenix selecting the guy from Cleveland.
Interesting.
Just noting that out there. You can look it up. They've had a forever beef. And it's just a funny thing that Phoenix hired the Cleveland assistant, even though I'm sure he's perfectly qualified and Cleveland was awesome this year. So, but go ahead, Steve.
Dunny, what were you asking? Sorry about that.
I know
Durant.
Yeah,
Durant.
Durant. I know
Yes.
there's been so many rumors. Do you have inkling or a thought of where he might go, or you just gonna let this thing play out?
So I think I'm gonna let it play out. I want to see him go to a contender. The weirdest team that I just keep seeing in the Honest and Durant is Toronto, which I still don't. I just don't
Yeah,
understand it. I don't
I,
really get it, but I just see Toronto's name mixed in, like not just like subtly, like heavily, like they're really gonna go after one of these two guys, or they
I
want.
saw a
And
report yesterday that that was both of their preferred destination. I'm like,
that's what I saw too.
that can't
And
be
then
true.
I was like, that's not right. That can't
Yeah,
be right, right? I mean, so that was the one that kind of stood out to me a little bit that was weird. But for Durant, it's more so, I treat him almost kind of like I'm treating, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the right player, but it's almost not really LeBron, because LeBron kind of gets his own team and guys come to him. But how many more like good years of Durant are we going to have left, right? How many more good years, competitive years of Durant are we going to have left? Like we saw spurts last year, we can still be KD, take over games, and then he's going to miss games because he's just getting older. I want to see him on a contender, Dunny. I don't want to see him on a team like Brooklyn. I don't want to see him on a team like if he went home to Washington. I don't want to see him in Toronto. Like I think San Antonio is great, but I also think too the one thing with San Antonio is, does the timeline line up, right? Or is Durant getting there maybe a year or two too early for this Spurs team? We still got to see Wemby coming back from the injury, right? We got to see all the other pieces kind of fall into place. I know they have De'Aaron Fox. I know Castle had a great year. Vassell, you see what they had to give up to get Durant like that. But I almost would rather see him on a team like Houston would be a great fit. I think for KD, I think that's kind of the exact scores Houston would really need, that can be consistent down the stretch. I would like to see probably KD. I mean, this would be wild, but to play like alongside Curry again, I think would be awesome. I know people would probably hate him for it, and I don't know if he could ever do that again. But I want to see KD kind of play with another, not star of his caliber, but a team that kind of fits his timeline, right? Where maybe they got 1 or 2 years left, they could make splashes. So San Antonio, as cool as it is, I just don't know if that's the perfect spot for KD. I completely don't get the Toronto, and Orlando would be another name where I know Orlando's kind of similar to San Antonio, doesn't really fit the timeline too much, but I think Orlando, if KD was there, I think they could be a competitor right away in the East. Houston would probably be my preferred landing spot. And then just, the basketball guy, like if there's some way where KD could play with LeBron, or if there's some way where KD could play with Curry again, I'd sign up for that too. The team I didn't mention that could be in the mix too now is Dallas. Dallas is weird because Kyrie's still going to be dealing with the injury. You don't know when you're going to get Kyrie back. They have the number one pick. They're getting Cooper Flag. But man, they before they were given the number one pick in the draft lottery, KD was rumored there as well. And I think Kyrie would be one of the guys KD would want to play with again. So there's a lot of options. I think that's what's going to make this summer so interesting for these rumors, right? Because we're going to talk about KD rumors, and I guarantee you guys, within probably a couple weeks after the finals, we'll be talking about Giannis rumors. And I can't remember a time where we had two stars of that caliber where we can't even narrow down 2, 3 teams, right? It's a broad spectrum right now. I name dropped probably like 6 to 8 teams, but you can make a case for so many teams this year. I know Chicago's going to want to make a case to have one of them there, but it's crazy. So I can't wait to see where he goes. I just don't think San Antonio is the right timeline for KD. My pick would be Houston right now. I think he would be the perfect fit on the Rockets.
I like that. Yeah, and a team we haven't even mentioned who Wendy said to look out for both these guys is Boston.
Yeah.
I personally, I mean, next year is just going to be so unpredictable for the Celtics. Even if they make a bunch of changes and they put together the roster, like we just won't know because Tatum won't be there. I'm in the camp where if you can get Durant without trading Brown or White, sure, but that makes it a lot more difficult. I don't think they're going to get Giannis, and that's kind of where I stand on it. But it is another team that's just been rumored a bunch. And the only thing I want to say about Toronto and why I think their name might be getting thrown around so much, I'll still never understand the preferred destination for those two because I just don't think that
Yeah.
can be true. But the reason their name might be put out there is because they actually do have a lot of contracts and a lot of decent assets to ship out if
Mhm.
these two teams were looking for players in return for their stars. Because you think of guys like Quickly, RJ Barrett, Scotty Barnes, Brandon Ingram is there now, which people forget about. Like they have a lot of kind of heavy contracts and a lot of above average, good, not great guys. I think maybe people are still waiting on RJ Barrett. I think he probably is what he is at this point. A lot of people were super high on Scotty Barnes 2 years ago. He kind of had a down year this year. Brandon Ingram still has some intrigue. So that might be the reason the Toronto thing is out there. And I think Toronto, I'm sure, is willing to trade any of those guys, including Scotty Barnes, to get either of these guys. So I think that's probably the only reason. But yeah, I'm kind of on a wait and see basis with KD because
Yeah.
he's been rumored to go to like half the league. So at this point,
Yeah.
it's not even worth guessing.
Exactly. And yeah, exactly. Toronto's never really tried to be bad. Like there's been plenty of opportunities where they could have just like fully, I guess this year they kind of tanked towards the end. But like going into a
They had
season,
a
they've
talented
never
roster, though. They had
exactly.
a
That's
talented
what I
roster.
mean.
They tried this year.
Going into a season, they've never been like we're going to be bad this year. They've
Right.
always wanted to compete. So it's not surprising that they're like star hunting here. Dunny, I do have to ask because I've seen plenty of the discussion around Giannis around Celtics fans, and I get it from your guys' perspective, especially when it comes to Jaylen Brown. From the outside perspective, if you can get Giannis in there, I think you have to do it, no doubt.
I don't want to do it.
Yeah,
It's emotional. I get it. I know where you're coming from. You have to, though. You have to if you can.
I genuinely believe this because let's put it this way. If you do that trade, right? You trade Jaylen Brown for Giannis next year. Tatum maybe comes back for the playoffs. Probably not though. You have a season where you don't have Jaylen Brown anymore. You don't have Tatum. You have Giannis and Derek White, presumably, if he's not in the deal. And then whatever you can field around those guys. I don't think the Celtics can win the title next year.
But do you think they can win the title if Tatum doesn't come back at the playoffs and they keep their kind of roster how it's structured now? Maybe pick up a free agent here and there. I don't think they can win the title without Tatum.
I was gonna say I think Giannis raises the ceiling for the next 3 years, no matter what.
I get I'm not saying I think they would win they have a chance of winning the title without Tatum next year if Brown stays. My point is if you keep Brown, you keep White, you wait for Tatum to come back, you just kind of like whatever they want to do next year, whether they want to tank, whether they field a good enough roster around Brown and White and they want to try to compete and just be competitive. But I think like you trade for Giannis, who's going to be 31 at the end of or beginning of next season.
He's 31 right now.
He's 31 right now, so he'll be 32 at the end of next season.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to trade a 28-year-old who's one of the better defenders in the league, who has an outside game, for a guy who doesn't have an outside game and is going to be 32 by the end of next season. And I think with either of them, you're not winning the championship. Obviously, this is I'm full transparency, partially emotional here. I don't want to see Jaylen Brown leave the Boston Celtics. I get it. I think every team should want to trade for Giannis. I think he automatically makes you a contender. It's just like the whole Tatum thing just throws a wrench in everything. It's kind of hard for me to even conceptualize.
It would probably have to be what else are you giving up besides Jaylen Brown, right? Number one. And then number two, like my thing is, what's Tatum's timeline? Because if there's a timeline where they're like Tatum can come back by the playoffs, Dunny, I promise you, Giannis can carry that Boston team and whatever supporting cast you put around him to a playoff spot, even probably not even in a play-in, probably like a
Derek White's better. Derek White's better than whatever Dame was throwing out.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
I was gonna say, look at what they did this year.
And I don't know, and it's hard to say what else the Celtics would give up, right? But let's just say, let's say White and Pritchard are still there. Giannis can carry that team to a playoff spot, and then if you get Tatum back for the playoffs, Dunny, that's not only a championship contender, that's a championship favorite. I think it opens up so much for Tatum's game. So I get what you're saying, right? But sometimes you almost have to look at this in a vacuum, right? And the Celtics are one of those teams where I think it's a short list of teams I have where everything just kind of falls into place. Like, as long as you have the core, right, they have smart enough management, and everyone making the decisions to get the right guys around them to build the team. They historically, our entire life, Dunny, they've shown that. They really have. So my whole thing is, in a vacuum, if you asked any basketball fan, hey, would you want Giannis or would you want Jaylen Brown? Not one person saying Jaylen Brown. And it's no disrespect to Jaylen Brown. You know how much I love Jaylen Brown. My whole thing is that if there's a chance to get him where you don't have to break up too much of the other pieces and you can pretty much get, I don't want to say a 3-year of Giannis, right, this year, but it would basically almost be kind of like a trial run. And then this season coming into it without Giannis, you almost, I don't want to say consider a wash, right? But if Tatum doesn't come back, what's the expectations for the Celtics this year? If you can get Tatum back in the playoffs, all right, we'll see. But Giannis, unlike Jaylen Brown, in my opinion, can carry a team the whole year and keep them afloat. He's done that with the Milwaukee Bucks for the past 3 seasons. Mm-hmm. That guy can keep this team afloat to the point where Tatum can come back. And also, I think it would help take so much pressure off Tatum when he returns from injury. Because when Tatum returns from injury and it's current Celtics how it is, Jaylen Brown will have games where he can step up and be the number one option, but it's going to be a lot more on Tatum.
Yeah,
that's where I'm like, and it's not that I think the Celtics should blow it up, because I think I've told you how I feel about the Celtics roster, their core, their depth, whatever. It's my thing is, and I think Jake said the same thing too. If you have a chance to go get Giannis, you go get Giannis. He's on the short list of players. You don't try to find excuse. You just make it work. It's a guy like that, and I get it. 31 years old. He's still 5 good.
We're not considering from this side. Another side is that the one city who might not make that move for a guy that they really hate is Boston and the Boston Celtics. And
maybe the fans, but not the management.
I don't know if Brad could pull it off, though. I don't know if he could do that. Does he have enough goodwill?
I think if Brad Stevens wasn't the president of basketball operations and this was actually on the table, I think the deal might already be done. I think this new owner, if he came in and this
flashy owner, it's true.
Obviously, it's this owner's got to be kicking himself, dude. He just paid the most in North America for a sports franchise ever. Didn't even get an arena with it. The arena does not come with the Boston Celtics. So he overpaid like crazy if you're looking at it through that lens. And then, the face of your franchise ruptured his Achilles your first playoffs owning this team. So I think if Brad wasn't there, who loves Jaylen Brown, who coached them, from what their very young age, and now kind of oversees and gets to put a team around them, I think he has a real relationship with those guys. And I think if we see Jaylen Brown traded, it's because the new owner strong arms him. And I don't even think it would be, I'm fully admitting that my hesitancy on this is that I'm a Celtics fan. I completely get that. It's the Tatum thing, just it makes everything else so hard, because it's crazy to look at last year and then this season and be like, oh yeah, now this could be the complete end of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum before either of them even reaches the age of 30. That's just kind of where I'm at with it. But yeah, I like how we turned KD's location into a little Celtics talk.
Yeah, he knew what he was doing. He knew what he was doing when he brought up the Celtics. It's a possible spot.
Hey, Wendy said that, not me.
No, you knew what you were doing. Don't even try. Look at that
Last piece of
smirk on
news
his
here,
face.
and then we'll actually finally talk about the finals 40 minutes in.
You sure you don't want to talk about Celtics a little more before finals?
We'll see. Maybe we'll do a little 5 minute on the Celtics at the end of the pod. Euro Cup champs. I looked up how to pronounce this before the pod too, and it's already out of my head. Hapoel Tel Aviv are expected to make Russell Westbrook, an offer never before seen in European basketball. I don't know why.
Refuse.
Yeah, exactly. An offer he can't refuse. I saw this on Twitter right before we hopped on and just thought it was interesting because I do think this is going to be one of the biggest summers in recent memory as far as change in the NBA and players going to different teams and splash trades. Kind of like how we saw the trade deadline this year. It was pretty nuts. And I think, with the CBA and the second apron, we're probably going to see summers and deadlines like this a lot more. And I'm wondering if European basketball, this is how they try to get their foot in the door and just offer older guys who still have a huge name and still bring in a lot of buzz, just a ton of money to go play overseas for these groups. And it kind of will be interesting to see what Westbrook does because I know more than anything, Westbrook is a businessman. Like he has so many business ventures outside of the NBA and outside of just fashion. I know a lot of people just think of Westbrook as the fashion and basketball guy, but I was reading an article a couple months ago about just really how involved he is financially in all these different things. So maybe that's something he considers because you would think he's probably getting the vet minimum anywhere else he tries to sign at this point of his career. So just thought it was an interesting little nugget and wonder if we will see more guys or more teams from the Euro leagues offer these kind of contracts to NBA guys.
Yeah.
You guys want to talk finals?
I would love to see Russ out there. Yeah, I would love to talk.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
All right. OKC Pacers. We got it. OKC has been resting up. One of the younger teams to ever make the finals. I think Alex Caruso is the oldest guy on this roster, which is crazy. And then you have the Indiana Pacers, who everything I've heard so far, no one wants to give the Pacers a chance. And I get it. I do think OKC is a better team. I don't want to say much better, though. And I kind of think that's how this is getting talked about. So just, I guess going into it on paper, we know it. We talked about the top. Everyone's fucking mad about the ratings. The three of us could care less about the small markets. What are your guys' initial thoughts just going into this finals? OKC, Pacers. I guess what are you guys looking for?
I mean, like I said, as a basketball fan, I said at the start of the pod, I'm really excited for this finals because the Pacers and the Thunder, like I said, are unique, and where if you look at the past, almost 10 years of teams that have made the NBA Finals, Dunny, like it's kind of all built similarly, and the Thunder and Pacers are kind of a little different, where they have just so much depth, they have so much athleticism. Yeah, they have their stars, but it's a lot of team basketball, and it's a lot of, we can run with anybody, we can defend when we need to, and I think we're going to see games where we haven't really seen in the finals before, where it could turn into a track meet, and then we're going to see other games where it's going to be your typical NBA finals, where in today's NBA, it's going to be a rarity to see games below, that 200-point total, but kind of hovering right around there, where if you score 105, 108, you're going to win the game. So I'm excited to see it. You'll kind of know how the game's going to go early on. But like you said, I think with the Pacers, I think they were 5-1 to win the NBA Finals when the market first opened, and I think it's still moving in Oklahoma City's favor. The Pacers are the team that they don't care, right? They don't quit. They don't care. They've been kind of counted out all year long. I think they were slightly favored in the first round. They definitely weren't favored against Cleveland, and I think the Knicks were favored over them in the Eastern Conference Finals. So they've been playing this underdog role very well. Not to mention their star player, Tyrese Halliburton, has been playing the, you're doubting me role very, very well. He won the Eastern Conference Finals MVP, Pascal Siakam. I can't say enough good things about Pascal Siakam. And I think something what's kind of underrated and what was kind of overshadowed by the flashy plays and everything Halliburton was doing in the playoff run was that Pascal Siakam is just Mr. Consistent in the playoffs. And this isn't just talking about Indiana. This is going back to his days in Toronto as well. This is a guy who's just consistent in the playoffs and just kind of gets it done. And he had a couple big games against the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals, which led to him winning the MVP. But these are two guys that are never as loved or as hyped up in the media as what they produce on the court, if that makes sense, right? I don't want to just necessarily say underrated because I think people both know these guys are stars. These guys can, take over games. These guys that can score when they want. They can do pretty much everything on the court. But they really aren't talked about at the type of star level as some of these other players are. And that kind of wants me to, pull for that type of team because they really have nothing to lose. Where you look at Oklahoma City, the one thing that gives me a big red flag on the Thunder for this NBA Finals is that they've had the perfect season so far. 68-win regular season, killing everyone. The point differential has been crazy. The metrics have been crazy. Just everything has just kind of been favoring the Thunder this year. They had an incredible run in the Western Conference Finals. They had the MVP in Shea. Chet's been healthy for the majority of the year. Jalen Williams had another leap, the year 3 leap. He had the year 2. He had the year 3 leap. And they're the youngest team in the NBA still. And they've been off for a little over a week now. And the only thing that these guys have heard, right, is that they pretty much have won the finals already. This is signed, sealed. This is a done deal. This is the best team in the NBA. We're not even giving the Pacers a chance. The Thunder are favored by 10. The Thunder are plus or minus, 800 to win the NBA Finals. That's all they've heard. And so far this year, the Thunder have not let their age get in the way of anything. They have played mature. I always say the Thunder are ahead of schedule. That's what I said last year, right? The Thunder are ahead of schedule. And it feels like they're ahead of schedule this year and that this could be the start to a dynasty for 10 years. But the one thing that always concerns me with these young teams is when you have a little time off and everyone's telling you you're great, right? Everyone's telling you how great you are, how great you are, how great you are. They still got to go out there and prove it because the team on the other side of the court, the Indiana Pacers, have been given nothing. And all they have done is just fought series after series, game after game, where they just pretty much been doubted in every step of the way, every series, their players, everything. And that's kind of scary for me. However, the one thing where I give the Thunder the advantage over the Pacers is if there's one team in the NBA that would know how to match up with the Pacers style of basketball, where you're scoring a basket, and next thing you know, Halliburton's throwing a Hail Mary full court pass, or 4 guys are behind your defenders because they're sprinting up the court, is the Oklahoma City Thunder. And we've seen them do this all year long and be able to stop teams that want to push against them all year long. And the biggest compliment I could say about the Thunder is that they're the best defensive team in the NBA, but they also can score 140 if they really want to. And that's the biggest thing that concerns me about, if the Pacers can keep this series competitive. But like you said, Dunny, I think overall we're discrediting the Pacers and we're discrediting that this is a team that just doesn't quit. And that's where I am really intrigued with this series because to the public eye, when you look at a plus 500 betting odds, it feels like a David versus Goliath. But in my opinion, these are two teams built very similarly in somewhat similar spots in terms of the timeline of their teams, right? Thunder definitely have the brightest future of any team in the NBA, but the Pacers got a good young core they're building too. They got depth as well. They have multiple stars. And I think this is just going to turn into a war. I really don't think this is going to be something that the Thunder are going to win right away. And I don't think this is going to be something where they blow out the Pacers. Now, they could win by 25 first game. They do that at home, feels like all the time. But if there's any team in the NBA that I think you just can't count out right now, it's the Indiana Pacers. And despite the Thunder probably checking every box and having the advantage over pretty much every stat, and like I said, in the public eye, it feels like, oh, this could be a 4-0 series. I think we're going to be treated to a pretty good NBA Finals where I think it's going to go 6, possibly 7 games. And I think every game's going to be competitive. I don't think we're going to see blowouts like we kind of did in the Western Conference Finals or Western Conference playoffs with the Thunder.
Yeah, it's it's weird the way it's being talked about. I think I don't know if it's the weight that OKC's had, and we've seen Indiana, and we got to see the dramatic finish of the Knicks series. Jake, where are you at with all this?
I'm a little surprised at how much the market, as we're seeing here, poly market, 86% towards the Thunder. I'm surprised at how much the market's favoring the Thunder. I figured it'd be like 70-30 here. Like I figured Oklahoma City would be the favorite. It makes the most sense. They're one of the biggest thing is the home court advantage. I think why they should have the edge. Like they're one of the best home court teams we've seen. And it's a real advantage. That crowd is super loud. They're going to be obviously super engaged for this trip back to the finals. Getting a game 7 at home, having that is huge. But Steve, as you mentioned, how could you watch this playoffs and think that matters for the Indiana Pacers?
Right.
And that it's going to matter even if they're down 25 in the second half. And here's the thing, both of these teams are teams that have been great at comebacks in the second half as the season has gone on. That's a story we've talked about the Thunder all year, where the Thunder they just kind of hang around. It's a 5-point game, it's a 4-point game in the first half, and then all of a sudden they're up by 24 and it's over. And that happens a lot because the Thunder, as we've talked about, defend the team with a complete offensive superstar in SGA, who, yes, does annoying foul baiting stuff that he doesn't need to do. He's still extremely skilled outside of that. And then a team of defensive superstars around him. I think that the biggest issue with Indiana in this series, if you're trying to convince yourself that they can be competitive, and I'm not saying that I don't. I'm more aligned with a 6-game series or maybe a very close 5-game series than I am a sweep or a blowout. In this series, 7, I don't know if I can get to. I'm still trying to see if I can get there. The issue is because Halliburton in the matchups against Oklahoma City, while it being a small sample size this year, really struggled and really wasn't aggressive like he's been in the playoffs. And so the thing that you have to look for, though, the counter to my own point of that, is that Halliburton has gotten better in all these series as the series has gone on. And so what will more exposure to the Thunder defense do to benefit Halliburton? Because ultimately, I think he will figure out ways to attack the Thunder defense. I think he will find ways to kind of get his and do what he needs to do. But I'm just worried that's going to be too late once he figures that out. And also, we've seen a lot in the last 2 rounds of Nembhard and Neesmith and Mathurin and even like a Miles Turner really stepping up. I'm worried about those guys being able to pull that off against Oklahoma City. Playing the Cavs and playing the Knicks, much different defensive challenge than playing Oklahoma City. So that's where it worries me for them is the Pacers offense that they've been able to access, and they've had lulls, but the will that they've kind of been able to pull out late in these games where it's just like, okay, Halliburton's going to get whatever he needs to do, and then the guys are going to hit timely shots and everything. That's a hard lever to pull against OKC. But if there's a team that can do it, it's this Pacers team. So it's a confounding thing for me to kind of reckon with, because I think a lot of people just I think a lot of this, guys, and all of a sudden the East was like a joke this year when the top 4 teams in the East all could have played with OKC in the finals. Like any one of those teams, and this is like a 1 out of 10 scenario of the Pacers making it. But any of these teams, like we talked about it being a clear delineation of who the contenders were in the East all year. And I think that the Pacers belong in that group. And so we all thought, at least I thought, the Thunder were probably going to win the title no matter what. But I think any of those East teams could have made this series competitive. And I think we should expect that from the Pacers too. People have been hyping up this Thunder team all year long, and for good reason, but also I think we're all kind of tired of it, and I don't think they're infallible. So I think this gets to 6, but I do think the Thunder win in 6.
I don't want to bring this up to Jake, but I have to mention it, right? When we talk about this Pacers team, the Cavs swept the Heat 4-0 and looked unstoppable. And this is a Cavs team that had just as about as good of a regular season as the Thunder. Maybe not to the level, but it was a 64-win regular season. Their point differential was great, right? They were killing teams. They sweep the Heat 4-0, absolutely annihilated the Heat. I think one game was competitive for a half, right? And the rest of it was just the Cavs were just killing them. And we were like, I remember, I think we were texting in the group chat. Dunny and I were both like, oh, like, Cavs might just run through the East. Like, the way they're looking right now. It was the first time, I think, as a Celtics fan in 3 years, Dunny was nervous in the East. And then all of a sudden, Jake, what happened? The Pacers came out and made them look mortal. I mean, they made the Cavs look like, to the point where you had to have a rant that we were talking about the Cavs like 2 years ago, where the entire regular season and everything, right, we saw from the Cavs was like, oh my God, like this is a different Cavs team. They figured it out, right? The coaching change, everything, everyone's stepping up. Mobley's made a leap. Like, this is different. And then the Pacers, no one thought they were going to do to the Cavs what they did, right? It was a 5-game series. They just,
it was 5, but and that's what you have to remind. Game 2 and game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals, both games that the Pacers had no business winning, and they're completely different series if they don't. And that's a game where, like, game 1 for the Cavs, like, yeah, they got punched in the face. Game 2, the Cavs controlled that shit. That was the thing. It was like, oh my God, like, we're back in this. This is gonna be a great series. And then all of a sudden, bam, Pacers just snatched that soul. And then it was the same thing in game 1 where the Knicks felt. You watch that game in game 1, you're like, oh shit, the Pacers are, like, New York's rocking. Cat looks good, everything, and then they just fucking did it again. So I know where you're about to come here. I think you're about to say, like, why we're all saying this right now, and then we're going to be looking at game 1, and Indiana's going to, like, pull it off late, win 110-109, and we're like, what the fuck happened?
That's what I'm saying is the Pacers-Cavs series, right? The aftermath of that series, all the discourse was about the Cavs, right? Oh, they didn't figure it out. Like, they're just not ready for the playoffs. Mobley, Allen doesn't work together. Granted, I know the Cavs had injuries, right? I'm not going to pretend that the injuries didn't happen. But all the talk about that series, Jake, right, was negative towards the Cavs. And that, this is a 64-win team that was killing teams, and they just fell short. Maybe it was just like, hey, maybe the Pacers were just kind of getting hot at the right time, and they were the first team to kind of not expose the Cavs, but be like, hey, we can play with a team like that. And in my opinion, and Dunny, you could correct me if I'm wrong, I think the closest team in terms of, like, regular season dominance to the Cavs this year was the Oklahoma City Thunder. And granted, the Thunder were a little more dominant, but if you want to be like, hey, what's one team this year that has really, like, made the Thunder or the Cavs kind of exposed them or made them, like, look like what happened? It's the Pacers in that playoff series against the Cavs. Other than that, the Cavs and the Thunder, I guess the Cavs struggled against the Hawks for a couple games. But the Cavs and the Thunder had no issues against any other NBA team this season.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think as a Celtics fan, I think watching those two teams all year, that it was pretty clear they were, whether it was a half step or step or they were behind those two teams. I think as far as just production, the way they were winning, all that stuff.
And
I think
Halliburton was not this guy at the start of
this
year,
wasn't.
And he admitted that. He said he was in his head. He was struggling. So, like, the turnaround for Halliburton is incredible to see. It's not that we didn't think this guy had it in him. It's just that he was really, really struggling this year. And we were all kind of like, man, that's weird, but you couldn't bank on him. And then all of a sudden you could bank on him again. And, there's just that just says a lot more about him than anything else, to be able to pull yourself out of that kind of, like, mental funk, to be able to do what he's been doing, which is nothing short of one of the greatest playoff runs we've seen, like, really. And so That's why you're right. Like, I don't know. I don't know what to do with this. Here's the
Right.
thing, too, guys. SGA versus Halliburton is like this podcast's dream matchup. If you were asked like 3 years ago, we could like pit two of our guys against each other. I'm so excited. They're not going to play. They're not going to cover each other. They're not going to do anything one-on-one.
Yeah.
But this, like, I'm excited to see how these two teams try to defend these guys. But really, I'm excited to see what this is going to look like for SGA when it's like we're talking about the NBA finals. I'm wondering what the Pacers, one thing you can guarantee from this Pacers team, it's going to be a physical series.
Yes.
Pacers are going to be physical. They're going to be cheap. They're going to do some dirty shit. They're going to try to get under SGA's skin, a guy who really is damn near unflappable. They're going to try. They're going to do everything they can. Like, they're going to try to rattle this team who's pretty much unrattled all the time.
They have the depth to do it too.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah.
They can take fouls. They can go and do what they need to do. I'm really interested to see how game one is officiated tomorrow to start out. Like, what can the Pacers get away with physically specifically against Shea on his drives? Because that's going to tell us a lot about this whole series. And unfortunately, it's going to tell us a lot about this whole series. But we really have to pay attention to, like, what's the contact that they're going to allow, and what's the standard they're going to set, because Indiana wants to make this. If we're talking, like, I know Indiana is going to want to play with pace, but Indiana's going to play with like pace and physicality. Like, it's going to be that, and that could hurt them because that's what could get them knocked out of these games quick. If they're not hitting shots and they're playing with this pace, and
Right.
OKC is just like, locking them down and their athleticism shining through, it could be a 40-point game really quickly. But I also think that it's a lot to ask OKC to do for 7 games or 6 games or whatever else. Like, OKC, Minnesota wasn't playing with that kind of pace against them at all. You know what I mean? Like, this is a really unique challenge for Oklahoma City that we haven't seen them try to address either. And I wanted the physicality would help Indiana to kind of close the gap here if they let them be physical.
Yeah, it is such an interesting finals, man, and I think the thing that could keep Indiana in this series, if they are going to hang around and compete with OKC, and I also think is another thing really not many people are talking about, is OKC was an awesome shooting team all regular season. They haven't shot the ball well in the postseason at all, and I could be wrong, but I believe the Pacers are the best shooting team in the NBA playoffs. So all the teams that were in it, I think the Pacers have shot the 3 ball the best. And like that could be a huge advantage for them in the series if OKC still doesn't figure out the outside shooting, because to this point they haven't. They've been great everywhere else. They've been great on defense, and that's allowed them to keep winning. But I think it's something we have to look out for. Jake, I know you said you have OKC in 6. I think I'm leaning that way as well. But I think one game the Pacers will just get too hot for this OKC team. And I think, another game at home, they'll play the Pacers brand of basketball, and it might be a little too much for OKC. I like that you mentioned earlier too, Jake, about the other guys like Nemhard, Turner, Mathurin, who has kind of struggled these whole playoffs. So I hope he's able to show up a little bit in this series. But I also wonder about Pascal, because he's a guy who really got it going against the Knicks and kind of had their way with them. He won Eastern Conference Finals MVP. He's a guy, too, who's going to have a lot of different looks. He's going to have to deal with Dort. He's going to have to deal with Chet. He's going to have to deal with Hartenstein down low. So the matchups, team to team, and then just player to player, it's super interesting for this series as well. I think one of those guys, Pascal is going to do his thing. I think he'll still get his numbers, but I think one of Nemhard, Nesmith, Turner, and Mathurin is going to have to be a big-time scorer throughout the entire series for OKC to have a chance. And, whoever it's going to be, we'll see. But, yeah, it's the reason I think the Pacers have a chance here is it's kind of what we've been laying out. Like, it just feels like the NBA world has already crowned OKC as champs. Like, they're the team who's had the commercials all season long. They have the MVP on their team. They've been waiting for the Pacers and Knicks to wrap. I don't know. It just seems like the they already have like this championship buzz, and we haven't even played one game in the NBA Finals yet.
Right, and they're playing a team like we said, Dunny. That's a team. That's the last team you want to count out, is because they've pretty much been counted out for the past 3 months, and they really have just persevered the whole time. The big thing I think about this series that I think favors the Thunder, and the big concern for me with Indiana, is how are the Pacers going to match the lineup with Chet and Hartenstein on the court at the same time with that size? Because the last thing you want to do against OKC is give them multiple possessions. And that's what I think could really screw Indiana over. Because if you're trying, like you said, if you're trying to play at pace like the Pacers do, and you're trying to run, and the shots aren't falling, and the Thunder are getting stops, and the Thunder are going the other way. Number one, the Thunder have the most 10-0 runs in the NBA this year, and I don't even think second place was close. Like when they just go on more runs than anyone, right? Because they know how to score after getting defensive stops. Number two, and this is the big one for me too, is like if the shots aren't falling for the Pacers, they're not going to get a lot of rebounds, and the Thunder will run on their side. Vice versa, when the shots aren't falling for the Thunder, like you said, this playoff stunning, they really haven't been. They've still been getting the rebounds. They have so much size. They have so much of athleticism, and the reason that really kind of helped them win this series against the Nuggets was they were just able to get the boards when they needed to. It's when I look at this, it kind of makes me think that the Thunder are this heavily favored because they can win games not playing perfect basketball, if that makes sense, right? Where Indiana kind of has to play perfect basketball to win this series or to even keep this series competitive. And we saw, I think, almost, I want to say 2 of the 3 series in the Western Finals. You could honestly say all three series in the Western playoffs, but at least 2, Memphis and Minnesota for me. The Thunder did not play perfect basketball. And they won games that really, not that they shouldn't have, but where Minnesota was outplaying them. Minnesota was shooting better. Minnesota was turning it over less, and the Thunder still won. The one game against Memphis where the Thunder came back down like 28 or something in the blink of an eye, where Memphis was kind of outplaying them the whole game, they just know how to win, and that's such a rarity with a team this young. And I think that's where I think the Thunder are so heavily favored, is because we saw in these playoffs that the Thunder haven't been playing perfect basketball. They haven't been playing at their peak, yet they continue to win these games. Where Indiana, as much as I've loved their playoff run, they've had to have these perfect games. They've had to have these perfect type comebacks to, win a lot of these games, win these series. And that's a lot more pressure. And I think when you look at the size with Chet and Hartenstein, and what are they going to match that with? Miles Turner, who's an undersized center. I love Miles Turner. Great vertical. He can shoot, but he's an undersized center. Pascal, could be a 4, but he's not like a match with Chet type of 4. That's a big, disadvantage for the Pacers. And I think that's where the Thunder have the biggest advantage in my mind, which why I think they'll win the series is because of that. I think the X factor here that no one really is talking about, but he's actually had a pretty sneaky good playoffs. I think it's Obi Toppin. I think Obi Toppin has the size and athleticism. He can get the boards. He can drive. He has the strength to drive on these physical Thunder defenders, right? And he had a couple good games against the Knicks, and I think this is a guy that should see more time, because as much as you guys know I love Ben Mathurin, and I love that he's a scorer, and he did kind of heat up towards the end of the next series, man, that guy can't play defense against this Thunder team. I don't think we're going to see him on the court much. I really don't, because we know with Rick Carlisle, he does not play Ben Mathurin if he knows Ben Mathurin can't defend. And we have been preaching this for years, guys, because we all love him. We're like, why isn't Ben playing? Like, Ben can be a bucket. When Ben was going crazy and scoring 20 off the bench every night, we're like, why isn't this guy in the starting lineup? And I think we learned it this past year. You just can't play defense at an NBA level, especially against a team like the Thunder, like you said, Dunny, right? It's a big team. This is a physical team. Like, this is a team that can switch with really anyone. So
And when you're competing for minutes against Neesmith and Nemhard, who
Exactly.
play super hard, I think Neesmith's a little
Exact.
better defender there, but they both play insanely hard.
Both play insanely hard. I think Neesmith will probably be SGA's assignment, or
Oh
Neesmith will
yeah,
be assigned at SGA
yep,
from the tip game one, which
I
I mean,
agree.
good for him. He's been incredible in these playoffs. So it really has been unbelievable. But that's where I think, like, if you can't play Ben Mathurin, and as much as I love TJ McConnell, right? TJ McConnell is undersized. That's a tough matchup to play against the Thunder because the Thunder guards are all big. They're all tall.
Huge, yeah.
They're all big. It's like you're gonna have to have a guy like Obi Toppin step up. Like you're gonna have to, find these other guys off the bench. And that to me is very interesting because the Thunder with Chet and Hartenstein, it's just so much size, and their guards have so much size. Indiana's gonna have to kind of change it up a little bit. The Knicks are great, but their guards are small. McBride's small, Brunson's small. Like the Thunder can play whatever, or the Pacers can play whatever matchups they wanted. Can't really afford to do that against this Thunder team.
Yeah, because you put Neesmith on SGA, like, okay, who's guarding J-Dub?
Right.
Because that right then, it's like if you want
Right.
to put Nemhard or Hallie on J-Dub, like that's just too much thickness. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's a beast. He's gonna drive through you. That's what he wants to do. He wants to draw fouls. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I think the Thunder, the first couple games will probably show who they are at home, and maybe it doesn't start until this thing goes to Indiana. But I think OKC's they're gonna have their way a little bit on offense, and I think it might be the Pacers' job to kind of figure out how they can step up, and this might be something where we see them learn kind of along the way in the series here. But you just never know. I think if you're doing, who has the coaching advantage, I would go Indiana here. Obviously, championship head coach Rick Carlisle's just kind of revived his coaching career a little bit with this Indiana run,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been pretty special. Steve, did you also say you have the Thunder in 6, or what are
Yeah,
you
I
thinking?
I want to try to get it to 7, but like I told you
Oh,
guys, I
I'd love
just
that.
think the size is really going to start to take a toll on the Pacers as the series goes on. Where I think the Pacers, I think they get a win in OKC probably in game 2. I really do think they split home against. I think it starts 2-2, and then the Thunder win the last two. I think the Pacers going to start off great, like. They'll have those hot shooting games. They'll have those games they can run. But as the series goes on, right, the Thunder win these games they shouldn't. They just wear you down. They have so much size. They have so much athleticism. And that's really, to me, where you brought it up perfectly, Dunny, with J-Dub. SGA can afford to sit on the bench for a 6-minute stretch. And J-Dub can just lead that offense. And we've seen him do it. Sneaky. It'd be a sneaky sprinkle, J-Dub Finals MVP. It'd be a sneaky sprinkle because I think SGA will put up enough numbers to have the box score for it. But I really truly believe that J Dub is probably the biggest mismatch for the Pacers in that because you're right. Who guards him? Like what are you
I
doing? You
agree.
can't have Pascal guard him because then what are you going to do with Chet and Hartenstein down low? You don't have the size there. So I'm going to be interested to see what lineups the Pacers kind of construct. And this would be kind of a series where I think we could see a different Pacers starting lineup by game 3 that we did in game 1, where they're tweaking a little bit there. But in the end, it's just too much size, too much depth, too much athleticism. They've been the best team all year long. I know I praised the Pacers and how they kind of shocked us with the Cavs, and I wouldn't be completely shocked if they, came out and gave the Thunder a really tough game 1 and made this a competitive series. But in the end, I do think Thunder in 6. I gotta give them the edge, and like I said, little sprinkle on J Dub Finals MVP.
Don't hate it, man. Don't hate it. Yeah, it really does. I think I obviously just laid it out a couple times. You guys did too. We all think the Pacers have a better fighting chance than the rest of the NBA world does. However, OKC should try to go out and do this now because we think they have bright years ahead, of course, but you look and see how fast things can change if you're, Boston, bringing them up again. The Tatum injury, we see they won a championship a year later. Their whole next
Yeah.
season is an unknown because of one injury. OKC's dominant regular season. They have the MVP on their team. Everyone thinks they're a heavy favorite and got to go do it now. So we'll see. We'll see what OKC got. I think both teams will come to fight. I wouldn't be surprised if we see like a 17 to like 13 first quarter tomorrow.
Really,
Yeah,
really okay.
I think we might see some ugly basketball to start. Young teams, both first NBA finals for both groups
Hmm.
here, and I think they're going to want to play fast, both of them, and I think that might result in some missed shots early and some jitters, but. I'm looking forward to it, man. NBA Finals basketball is awesome, regardless of the two teams. I don't give a shit about the ratings conversation. We covered that at the top. We're gonna have a blast watching these finals, no matter what. So, yeah, we all have Pacer or OKC in 6. Pacers grabbing a couple games here in this series. I think it'll be awesome, man. Maybe if you're trying to tail Steve, do a little J Dub sprinkle for Finals MVP. You guys have anything else here on the finals?
It's gonna be fun. I just can't wait to see the basketball. Like I do think there's gonna be some ugly basketball, but I also think there's gonna be some beautiful basketball, and I'm gonna enjoy
Yeah.
every second of it. Also, both crowds, OKC and Indiana, are gonna be fucking lit for this. It's gonna be an awesome atmosphere.
That's one thing, right? Like, you got the NBA fans complaining about the small market and this and that. Shout out to Indiana and Oklahoma City fans. First off,
Yeah.
Oklahoma City. I mean, for being in Oklahoma City and the home court advantage they have and making that almost feel like a college arena is incredible. And then Indiana, some of the most loyal fans you'll really ever find. Um, there's always like a soft spot in my heart, especially living in Buffalo, when you have like a smaller market of just people who are just loyal to their team, finally making it to a championship. Um, Indiana, Oklahoma City, this is awesome. I know we had Oklahoma City a little bit ago, but to be back now, right after the Kevin Durant, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, era. This is a new era for the Thunder. That's awesome. And shout out the Pacers too, man. I mean, this is a team that no one really expected to get this far. Everyone was shocked when they made the Eastern Conference Finals last year. Now they're in the NBA Finals, and it's just two, loyal fan bases. I know Indiana's been around a little longer than Oklahoma City, but two loyal fan bases that stick with their teams through the good and the bad. And the one thing I want to give the Thunder fans so much credit for is there were a ton of loyal Thunder fans after that big three kind of just blew up and left. And to stick with your team and to now be in the spot to potentially have the first championship of a big time dynasty run, that's a pretty awesome feeling.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Smaller nugget here, but also think it'll be a pretty good jersey matchup in these finals. I think shouldn't be too hard on the eyes if you're a viewer and you like that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's gonna be awesome, man. I love the NBA finals. Every day that passes, I'm a little less sad that the Celtics aren't here, but we out here. That's 2 times I mentioned the C's since we said I wouldn't again. But that'll do it for Happy Hour Hoops tonight, guys. Shout out Trainwreck Sports. Shout out Jake and Steve. Follow us at Happy Hour Hoops 1 on all socials. And enjoy the NBA Finals starting tomorrow. And we will see you guys next week.